You're now listening to the Engage the Rockies podcast, your go-to podcast for local and state issues concerning Colorado.
Hello, Rockies. This is Sarah Jane Maroney, your host, and welcome to this week's interview with Erin Lee, a mother of 3 children from Northern Colorado, speaker, writer, founder of Stop Gender Ideology, and executive director of Protect Kids Colorado. She's told the story of rescuing her 12-year-old daughter from transgender grooming in a public school on Fox News, Newsmax, Daily Wire, The Epoch Times, The Blaze, Daily Mail UK, and The Wall Street Journal. She produced a film last year about their story called Art Club, available to stream for free at artclubmovie.com. Erin travels the country, educating and fighting for parental rights and against gender ideology. We welcome her. Erin, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So tell me a little bit about the background of how you got involved and founded your organization.
So I was a pretty sleepwalking, politically disengaged, busy mom. And then May of 2021, my daughter came home from school and we learned that she had been in what we thought was an art club, but it was actually a secret gender and sexuality club, where they brought in outside parties who taught my daughter, if you're not completely comfortable in your body, that means you're transgender. And if you don't know who you're sexually attracted to, that means you're queer. And they taught her inappropriate sexual concepts like polyamory, talked about medicalization. Well, now that you're transgender, you can just take these puberty blockers and all your discomfort will go away. And here's how to see a gender affirming therapist without your mom and dad knowing that you're doing it. And they just heavily vilified parents. Like, you may not be able to trust your parents, but you can trust us. And they connected her on Discord and WhatsApp and via cell phone to these predators that were in her 6th grade classroom. And we're one of the lucky families that she came home and told us what was happening at school and was really open with us. And so we were able to help her through that. It took about a year after we learned that she had been secretly transitioned into a boy at school without our knowledge. Long, hard year. And we were up against some egregious laws that exist here in Colorado, like one that was passed in 2019, 1129, that forces all licensed therapists to only affirm a gender confused child. And so that therapy made her worse. Her pediatrician betrayed us. And it was a long, hard road to get her out of this dark cloud of confusion. But she's on the other side now. It's been 4 years. She's 16. She's about to get her driver's license. She's a happy, healthy, thriving 16-year-old girl. But it was a dark year. And we went public with our story about a year after the art club. We'd gotten her through the confusion and we decided we needed to tell her story to protect others. And thousands of families came forward to me, hundreds just here in Colorado. But we learned this was a very pervasive issue. This was ubiquitous across the country. It's a very common practice to transition kids in secret. And, I went from just an unassuming mom to, within a week of launching our story, I was on like Tucker Carlson and Glenn Beck and Fox News, and it was overwhelming. But I really feel this sense of obligation now to stand up for all the parents who I know are going through this just like we did.
That's amazing and scary and all the things.
They messed with my kid, but I was such a non-confrontational, shy person, believe it or not. And everything changed when they crossed that line in the sand, which is messing with my child and violating our rights as parents and violating my child in such an obscene, sexual way. And so again, I speak up on behalf of all the families who are going through this. And that's kind of led to Protect Kids Colorado. So last year, we formed last January 2024, a group of wonderful people came together. I'm certainly not the only one. Former Colorado Senator Kevin Lundberg is our chairman at Protect Kids Colorado. And this was really his brainchild to run citizens' ballot measures to combat all the radical legislation. We can't stop the bad bills. We definitely can't pass the good bills in reference to these social issues like gender ideology. And so we're just taking matters into our own hands to put it to the people and let Coloradans have a say on these issues.
So let's talk about that a little bit. I do want to circle back because there was a SCOTUS decision not related to Colorado that was kind of interesting. But before that, the legislature have just passed a bill, HB 25-1312, and it had a section about parental stuff that was taken out. I believe it was section 2, might be 3, doesn't matter. That was taken out. But from what I've understood in speaking with Minority Leader Rose Puglisi, there's still a lot in there that is not affirming of parental rights. So talk us through that.
I'm so glad you asked that question. And I'm glad Rose brought that up. So 1312, in my opinion, it's the worst bill in the history of mankind. Like the whole world was watching Colorado when this bill was going through the legislature, which in my opinion is a gift because there's so much bad legislation here that I'm glad the country is paying attention to what's happening. But in my opinion, the end result of 1312 is the same, even though they manipulated some language. So as originally written, it was very poorly written by a unlicensed lawyer who I won't even go into details. Someone who probably should not have been writing legislation. And then once a negative attention came down on 1312, I believe Jared Polis got involved, got some good lawyers involved in cleaning up the language. And it did initially say that not affirming your child's gender confusion is coercive control under the law, and that the courts can then use that in custody decisions, both in two-parent households where both parents are against it, but also in those divorce situations. They removed that language, but the reality is that that's already practice in Colorado. That's already happening. The Child Protective Services, the court system, they're all stacked against the parent who will not affirm or transition their child. In fact, I work with a handful of dads here in Colorado who have already lost full or partial custody of their kids. There's one dad, Jason Zook, he's a teacher in Thornton and very, like left leaning for what it's worth. Like he's not politically aligned with the people who are opposing 1312. And he, back years ago, his 7 and 9-year-old, his ex-wife suddenly transitioned them both. And he objected to his 9-year-old getting puberty blockers at the True Center here in Colorado, 9 years old. And because he did that, his wife raked him through the coals in court. He went pro se because he's a teacher. He couldn't afford a lawyer. And he lost 100% of custody rights to his 2 sons, who are now fully medically transitioned by the ex-wife. And so that's already happening. And if they had left that section 2 in 1312, then we could have fought it in court. We could have then challenged it legally. But because they removed it, they get to remain, it remains practice. They get to keep stripping good parents of their parental rights because they're not willing to transition their children. And as I know firsthand, it's detrimental to push your kids into this mindset that you were born wrong, that your body is wrong, that you can biologically change your sex. You can't. Sex is immutable. It's an impossible pursuit to change your sex. And in my experience, 100% of the time, it does not make children happier or healthier. In fact, these procedures are incredibly detrimental. They're irreversible to these kids' bodies. And so, long story short, the end result of 1312 is still the same. It's just harder for us to legally challenge.
And there is a lawsuit that I understand. I know that there was a camp that just recently won a settlement out of court, but there is another lawsuit. And I think you're involved in that. I don't know what you can say about it, but tell us what you can.
Yeah, so my organization, Protect Kids Colorado, along with Colorado Parent Advocacy Network and Defending Education, Do No Harm, and a local Colorado physician, Travis Morrell, we filed the first federal lawsuit to challenge 1312. I personally believe it's unconstitutional, compelled speech. It's a violation of our First and 14th Amendment rights. And so we are challenging that law. And then also Alliance Defending Freedom came in behind us and is representing Jennifer Say of XXXY Athletics, which is based here in Denver, as a second lawsuit. I anticipate there may be more. So we are challenging 1312.
Let's circle back to that in terms of SCOTUS and a recent decision that was about a law in Tennessee. Tell me a little bit more about that, if you could, please.
Yeah, so the Skrmetti decision, Skrmetti is the Attorney General of Tennessee, was brought before SCOTUS. Actually, the Biden administration signed on to that challenge to challenge the Tennessee law that outlaws these irreversible medical procedures on minors. And there are actually 27 states who have at least partially outlawed it. 24 of those are complete outlaw on the puberty blockers and the hormones and the surgical procedures. So 27 states have outlawed these procedures for minors. And what the Skrmetti case did is that was the ACLU and the Biden administration challenging a state's ability to ban these medical procedures for children. And so in the Skrmetti decision, they were successful, or I guess I should say the challenge was unsuccessful, and the law was deemed constitutional. And so what that means for states like us here in Colorado, the other 23 states who have yet to ban these barbaric, Mengele-like, irreversible procedures on children to meet the needs of their mental health distress. What that means is that when we outlaw it, it will be deemed constitutional and upheld through any court challenges. And we're seeking to do that here in Colorado.
When we talk about ballot initiatives, which we're about to, so that the listeners understand, if a ballot initiative has a number, that means it's citizen led, whereas if it has a letter on it, it has to do with the legislature putting something out there. And so that's the distinction. So you guys have put forward a ballot initiative or more?
We have 3 ballot initiatives. So through Protect Kids Colorado, we're taking on 3 issues. Some people may remember last year, we were just starting out, learning what we were doing. We had no money, no timeline, but we pushed 2 ballot initiatives. One was parents' right to be informed of these secret transitions, and then keeping boys out of girls' sports, just making sure that females' single sex spaces are protected for females only. And I'm just so excited to share that with less than 90 days, we got nearly 80,000 signatures, which I'm understanding is triple what's ever been done on a volunteer basis with a full 6-month timeline, which tells me the people of Colorado are ready for change, that these are unifying issues, that majority of Coloradans don't think boys should be in girls' spaces or parents should be lied to or kids being mutilated. And so we've actually cleared language on 3 issues through the title board. Scott Gessler is our amazing attorney, former Secretary of State, and has championed us through that process. And the 3 issues are life in prison, no chance of parole if you buy or sell a child for sex. Most people don't realize we live in a very laxed child rape, child trafficking state, where most child rapists in the state of Colorado are let off with probation. And we don't take a hard enough stance on protecting kids from sex trafficking. So stiffening the penalties for child sex trafficking, protecting girls' sports, just making sure that they're designated male, female, or co-ed. We certainly don't want anyone to be excluded, but we want to make sure that females' spaces are safe, competitive, and fair. And then the final issue is banning these irreversible surgical procedures on minors pertaining to changing their biological sex.
So all 3 have cleared the title board with language, and you're collecting signatures still on all 3, or some are done?
So we haven't started signature gathering yet. Just from an administrative standpoint, we will probably start at the end of August. It's likely that we'll go back to title board just with a few refinements and administrative changes and then begin in August. It's just a more ideal signature gathering timeline than summer when everyone's busy. So we'll hopefully start in August and then have until February. It's a 6-month period to gather. It's 130,000 signatures per issue. It's a percentage of the overall voters who are registered in Colorado, but we're shooting for 200,000 per issue because the SOS will invalidate up to 30%.
And can anyone sign that, whether you're Republican or Democrat? It just has to be a percentage of the voters.
Great question. Yes. So I should mention Protect Kids Colorado is very much a nonpartisan, broad coalition. You know, last year with the girls' sports issue, we saw like the radical feminists and gays against groomers and so many different sides of the coin coming together to go, we may not agree on anything else, but we agree men aren't women. And we agree children should not be harmed. And so it's been amazing to see how unifying these issues are. But yes, actually anyone can carry a petition. You don't even have to be from Colorado to be gathering the signatures. I know that's an interesting fact. A lot of people don't know that. But in order to sign the petition, you do have to be a registered Colorado voter by November 2026. So a 17-year-old who can pre-register to vote, who will be able to vote in the November 2026 election, can actually sign these petitions. And it's all will of the people. You know, the beautiful thing about this process is that we, the people, on a volunteer basis, working together to just allow our fellow Coloradans to have a voice. And when you sign these petitions, you're not necessarily saying you agree with it. You could want boys to play in girls' sports, but you might agree that the people of Colorado deserve to have a say on it. And that's when you sign the petition, it's just allowing these to get onto the ballot so that Coloradans can vote.
So that means someone from the military who's stationed in Colorado could carry a petition, but they have to make sure that anyone who signs it is the Colorado voter.
That's exactly right. Yep. By November 2026.
Yeah, I heard recently that when you go to sign up at the DMV to get your temps permit and whatnot, that they
It's automatic.
automatically register you as an unaffiliated voter.
Oh, interesting. I know it's automatic. I didn't know the unaffiliated piece, but yeah. So everyone's registered. When you get your driver's license, it's automatic now here. But we do have our circulators will have, they're required to wear a badge that says that they're volunteer, that they're not being paid to get these signatures. And we do have a QR code where you can check your voter registration and just make sure as you're signing this petition that you're using the right address and that you are current in the registration system.
Brilliant. What you would encourage parents to do, obviously, you would love for them to carry a petition and to help get this onto the ballot for Coloradans to decide. But what if a parent is concerned about their child and they've got their child in a public school and they kind of think, this couldn't possibly happen to me, and yet it did in your case? What would you say to them?
Yeah, well, we actually made a film about this. Also, Colorado, former Senator Kevin Lundberg is our filmmaker. He and I worked together to make a film called Art Club. It's at artclubmovie.com. It's free. You can watch it on YouTube and Rumble. And our hope with that was just to help educate people on this issue. It's been so bizarre for me to, give speeches all over the state and be deemed controversial or have people say that's not happening or you were one isolated incident. How dare you try to, push this agenda on all of us? Well, it's a very pervasive issue and it is happening to families on a huge scale here in this state. And so our hope with that film was first and foremost just to educate people on the issue. I think people don't know what they don't know, especially parents. I was guilty of this. I was busy. I was working. I was preoccupied. I wasn't paying attention to politics. I wasn't watching the news. And I just was so caught off guard when this happened to us. And I understand that's the case for a lot of these parents. Your kid suddenly comes home and they're the opposite sex. And it's like, wait, what happened at school today? So we just don't know what we don't know. And my hope is to educate parents and grandparents and just any concerned citizen about the issue first and foremost. So I encourage people to watch it, encourage you to share it. It's our personal story. It's got some great expert advice from ADF and Family Research Council and some great resources in there. I encourage parents to educate themselves, I guess is what I'm getting at, to understand what's happening in our schools, to be really, really active in your kids' education. And you'll learn in my movie that my bottom line is get your kids out of public schools. I don't think they're safe here in the state of Colorado. That can be a controversial take because there are so many great teachers in this state who want to do the right thing, who are not out to harm kids. But our education system is deeply broken from the top down. The teachers union is pulling all of the strings. They have nefarious agendas, as I've learned the hard way. And so I do encourage parents to consider alternatives. I am a private Christian school for my daughter, a classical core knowledge school for my middle son, and then I homeschool my youngest. So it's certainly sacrifice to choose these alternatives, but you either sacrifice for your kids or you're sacrificing your kids in these very potentially harmful situations. And look, only 30% of kids in Colorado can read and do math at grade level. 70% of the kids in our public school system are failing. And so even if that's your motivation, that you want a better educational experience for your kids, we're lucky to live in a state that has these good options. Like parents in Illinois that I work with, they don't have charter schools. That's not an option for them. It's homeschool or public or pay for private. And so we're really fortunate to live in a state with so many options and so many great charter schools. I know El Paso County has a lot of them. We've got some great ones up here in Larimer. So encourage parents to consider alternatives, but at the very least, just be really involved in your kids' education. Send emails, ask questions, volunteer in the classroom, read everything that comes home. Don't assume that everything is rainbows and sunshine while your kid is in that public classroom.
That's great. Great advice. So what else would you say, especially having just formed an organization, and this is a C4, correct?
Correct.
What else would you say to people in terms of their civics engagement, even if they're not a parent?
Yeah, I think we all need to get involved at the grassroots level. Back to 1312, one of the most amazing parts of, I was at the Capitol like 5 times a week. I mean, I was in 1312 hell for the entire month of May, trying to just educate people and fight this horrible law. But one of the beautiful things that happened was all of these grassroots leaders coming together, putting our differences aside and all showing up together to coalesce behind stopping this egregious legislation. And what I've learned is that there are so many people in Colorado doing great things. United Community Leaders of Colorado, Gays Against Groomers. There's a group of pastors that call themselves Fight 1312. Christian Home Educators of Colorado, Colorado Parent Advocacy Network, my organization. There's so many Moms for Liberty. There's a great Moms for Liberty chapter in El Paso that people are just trying to make change. It's the groups have already been formed. And so I encourage people to just engage at the local level with these grassroots organizations, whether that's showing up at school board meetings. When something's going right, tell them they're doing a good job. When something's going wrong, call them out. Showing up at the legislature to testify. We're so lucky to have a Zoom process here where you can remote in to testify for the good bills and against the bad ones. And again, just be generally engaged, pay attention, and above all else, talk about these things. Just talk about it. Talk about it with your neighbors, the people at church, with your friends. And that's why these petitions, these ballot measures are a great conversation starter that you can just say, hey, we're trying to put these issues before the voters, and I'd love to talk to you more about them. So above all else, talk about what's happening because knowledge is power, and it all starts with just educating our neighbors on what's happening in our state.
So tell us a little bit more about where people can get involved with Protect Kids Colorado.
So protectkidscolorado.org. We are now calling for people to sign up to volunteer. Of course, we welcome donations. It's going to take money to win in the messaging realm. Once we get to the 2026 election, I can just see now all of the ads they're going to try to run against us, which is insane. Like, how do you defend chopping off healthy body parts of kids or like boys stealing girls' trophies? It's bizarre that they can even try to defend that, but we're going to need financial support to win with messaging. And we encourage people to sign up to carry a petition at protectkidscolorado.org. It's easier than people think. Each petition's 40 signature lines. We're not asking you to go stand outside King Soopers and poach people, but take it to your church, take it to the ball field, take it to your family reunion. Every signature counts. And if we all just do a little bit, then we absolutely will win. After 1312, there was a lot of discouraged people who were like, I'm so hopeless. Colorado is so lost. All these horrible laws have been passed. I disagree. I am so hopeful. And this is a way for people to engage. The people that go, I want to do something, but I don't know what to do. Just take a petition and talk to the people around you and help us put these issues before the people of Colorado. And when they pass in 2026, because we've done polling and I'm positive Coloradans are ready to vote yes on these issues, we will see the dominoes fall in this state. We will see we, the people, take our power back.
So final question for you. In terms of petitions, talk me a little bit more through this. Like we already said that somebody on a military installation can carry the petition even if they're not registered to vote in Colorado. What is it like? I mean, I know that you have to do some sort of verification and get a notary. Talk us through the nitty-gritty of this, because I don't think we've ever on Engage the Rockies talked about what it means to carry a petition.
Yeah, that's a great question. I wish I had one at my desk so I could show you what it looks like. Yes, once you take a petition, that belongs to you. You cannot get a few signatures and then pass it off to your spouse to go get signatures. You have become the official petition circulator. And that's just, of course, to keep everything above board. The SOS has a very stringent process for how you gather signatures, but it's really easy. You take a piece of paper, you watch people sign it as they sign it. And then once your petition is full, you do have to get it notarized, which you can do for free at any bank. At your own bank, we have notaries set up around the state to help people out. And then you just get the petition back to us. So you get some signatures from the people around you. You have a notary verify that you had eyes on all of those signatures, and then you return it to us. And truly, we're going to need 5,000 to 7,000 volunteers to be successful. Again, 200,000 signatures, everyone just doing a little bit. It sounds like a big number, but we had over 3,000 volunteers in 80 days last year. So I know that we'll get there. But I think you can talk to anyone who carried a petition last year and they'll go, yeah, it wasn't as scary as I thought it was going to be. And you'll learn that people are excited about these issues, that, it doesn't matter what political party someone's affiliated with. When you bring up this issue of protecting girls' sports, 99 times out of 100, people are going to be excited to sign it.
Well, I've learned so much, Erin, and I really appreciate you being a voice for parental rights and having come forward with your story and uniting lots of parents. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Engage the Rockies podcast. your go-to podcast for local and state issues concerning Colorado.